You're listening to Parenting Our Future. I'm parenting expert Robbin McManne, author of The Yelling Cure and founder of Parenting for Connection. My podcast is all about providing you with the tools and solutions you need in all different areas of your parenting so you can create strong connections with your kids, get all the cooperation you want, and live a life that is full of joy and connection. And by the way, the tools and solutions that you're looking for in your parenting don't just live in each episode of my show, they're also in my free membership site, The Parent Toolbox, where you can access tools created by myself and my brilliant guests that cover everything from helping your kids to sleep, managing meltdowns, reducing overwhelm, to getting your kids to listen the first time, and so much more. Join the Parent Toolbox so you can download and use the tools that are ready on the site, and each week, a brand new tool is added. And of course, the best part is it's absolutely free to join and to stay in. You can go to www.parent-toolbox.com today. Now let's dive into this next episode of Parenting Our Future. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Parenting Our Future. It's Robbin McManne here. I have the best guest, you guys, the best guest. If you have kids who are playing any kind of sport, you need to listen in. I have Coach Steve Morris here, and Coach Steve is awesome. He encourages parents to enjoy their kids' brief 10-year window in youth sports while keeping their hopes and expectations in check. Out of millions of young kids who enter sports, roughly 17.7% of them will play high school sports. Fewer than 7% of those will play in college. And the number who go on to be professionals are infinitesimal. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk about this. And really what we're here to talk about is what matters most. And that is that the most dynamic statistics is how many really create lifelong friendships with their teammates. So Coach Steve, welcome.
Thank you. This is great. Thanks for letting me speak today.
Yes, thank you. Well, and at the time that we're recording this, I know that kids right now, at least where I am, they're trying out for rep and the elite teams right now, and then they're going to start to do house. So, you know, there's lots going on right now. And I have been in it. My husband and I have been in it. You know, he's coached our kids. I've been a team manager. You know, we've done fundraising. I've done 50-50 and, you know, beer and burger nights and the whole thing. So we have lived it and we have loved it. And I have seen, this is why I want to talk to you so much, because I have seen parents lose their cool, lose their perspective, all in the name of, you know, their kids
furthering their kids, right?
Yeah. And so, okay, so I want to tell you something that we were so lucky to be a part of. So many years ago, Chevrolet had safe and fun hockey, and so my oldest son, was picked to do an on ice with Canadian Olympic hockey player Cassie Campbell and Bobby Orr. Wow. So here's the coolest
Bobby Orr.
Yes, Bobby Orr. So we met him. Great. We got to spend time with him. Here's how they did it, though. It was so interesting. Because parents get trapped and kind of lose perspective on what's happening in front of them. We get so excited. We see our kids maybe have some potential. We catapult ourselves into the future and think, well, maybe my kid's gonna go to the show. They're gonna actually get picked to be a professional. So what they did is they had a couple of on-ice sessions on the weekend, but Friday night was for the parents. So they started with a parent meeting. So interesting. And Bobby Orr was there with Cassie Campbell and some other people. And he was the one that said, I know how much you want your kids to succeed in professional hockey, but you have a 0.00019 something chance of your child ever getting into professional hockey. And it was like, whoa, you know, and we sort of already knew that, but hearing it from him and hearing that, and by the way, he was sitting up on the stage with pants, no socks and shoes, because he's known for not wearing socks in his skates, which was super cool to see. And, you know, he was so good. And he talked about, you know, when parents could ask him questions, he talked about how, you know, we need to bring fun back. Like, let's let the kids have fun first. and talked about how there is no benefit to having, 365 days of the year full of one sport. He said, no, they need to try other sports. They need to do other things. So we're going to sort of talk all about this. And by the way, to illustrate that fact, one of the on-ice sessions had no pucks, which was so interesting. He actually used a bunch of rubber chickens, which was really fun and really cute too.
Yeah,
but
the kids must have loved it.
They loved it. And so for my husband and I, my husband has, was a coach at the time, and it really gave us some perspective that we really took and we really kind of ran with for our philosophy for our own kids. So we're here to talk about that. So tell me what your perspective is. Where do you come into this, and how have you started talking about this?
Well, go back to Bobby Orr for a second. If no less a Hall of Fame expert than Bobby Orr is telling parents, relax, chill out. Your kids are not going to the show, so have a good time. What else do you need? And I guarantee you, though, that there are parents sitting in the room who his words are bouncing off them. They're going, yeah, no, and he's saying that. He's saying that for everybody else. He's not saying that for me and my kid. Bobby, that's okay. I get it. Yeah, these other people should temper their expectations, but my kid's going. And I'm sure that there were parents there who were, oblivious to his message. There was no resonance with the words he's saying. They're just in awe of his glow. And, that's sort of it. Parents can hear these statistics. And I have conversations with parents all the time about just relax, have a good time, enjoy these years. And they're just going, yeah, you're so right. You're so right. And then the next question is, but, should we have 2 or 3 private lessons a week?
Right.
It's, there's like a shield that, is preventing people from actually hearing, the words, hearing the lessons, taking it to heart.
Yeah.
So, it's been my mission over the past couple of years to try and help parents through this, to kind of be a parent whisperer, and get them through their own stress and anxiety, which they then, lay on their kids, who are the ones that are having to perform and live out these dreams. So,
and look, I've seen it in the most awful ways, to be really blunt. Parents standing, and I'll use hockey as my example, because it's really where I've spent the most time in my life. We've been to the soccer pitch, we've spent time on the baseball diamond, but hockey, it has left such an impression where they are banging on the glass for their kid. I mean, how does that help? And by the way, let the coaches deal with it. You don't need to coach your kid from there, and then there is after the game, and you see those parents that are furious at their kids. And you know that car ride home is going to be hell on earth for
a horror show. Yeah. Well, and that's where the most damage is done.
Yeah.
The car ride, because emotions are still white hot.
Yeah.
Parents are, their adrenaline is still flowing. Their blood pressure is shooting out of their head. And, the kids are exhausted. If they won the game, great. If they lost the game, then their emotions are also a jumble. And they get into the car, and the last thing they want to do is engage in any sort of conversation, critical or otherwise. They just want to crawl into their seat, maybe get something to eat. But even that, they're just feeling terrible, because they know kids don't have to be told that they lost or they played poorly or they had a terrible game or they missed a shot or they didn't execute. Kids know. Kids are smart. So the parent reinforcing that, because the parent has to unload. The parent has to, let's unpack what just happened. And, so the car ride, you're confined in this space. You're in a seatbelt. You're hurtling down the road at 60 miles an hour. And so the kid is trapped. And the parent just feels this is the best place to have this conversation. And it does not go well.
No.
It does not go well in the best of times.
Well, and parents are making it about them, really, about how they're feeling, right? And I think it's more powerful to say, hey, buddy, what do you think? How did it go for you? Right.
But
So,
don't do it then. But
right.
don't do it then.
We're done. They know
Yeah.
they need to think about it. They need to decompress. So, okay. So, how do you balance that with the parents that you know and work with between like not killing everybody's hope of, because kids are dreaming of that, right? Kids for sure. My son, he slept with his hockey helmet. He wore his hockey gear all the time. And of course, fast forward to today and he doesn't play at all. But, where do you draw the line between healthy dreams and goals and the reality that they're probably not going to make it there?
I think you have to sort of, you can't stop speaking to the parents. You can't stop. You have to keep talking to them, and in hopes that some of it will kind of break through. A lot of it comes with time, and it's tough in the moment. My three kids went through soccer and lacrosse, and there was a little swimming thrown in for variety. And my kids early on were pretty good soccer players. And of course, you think, wow, maybe they can play in college. And then the reality is, as they get a little older, their interests change. Their friend groups can change. School changes things. Puberty is sort of the great leveler.
Yeah.
Some little tiny kids are going to become giants at puberty, and some aren't going to, mature until high school or the end of high school. So there's no way of knowing. So the one thing that is really difficult to have, which is so necessary, is perspective. Is know that this is just a moment, a chapter. Any one game, any one moment, any one shot is not going to impact the future happiness of your child. It's just not. But
Yeah.
it's difficult to have perspective in the moment. And it's even harder if this is your first kid and your
Oh,
first time through this whole cycle.
yeah.
It's a little better, just like parenting. The second and third kids, they have it a little easier.
Yeah.
They also know how to figure out based on their watching their their older siblings get slammed. But parents are less crazy with their second and third kids.
Yeah.
But for that first kid, it's just, you have to take a deep breath. You have to breathe. You just have to breathe, because there's sort of nothing you can do about it. All the private lessons in the world, all the competitive clubs and teams that the kids play on, unless it comes from the kid,
Right.
unless the motivation and the drive and the work is coming from the kid, it can't be imposed by you.
Right.
It can't come from outside.
Yeah.
It has to be the kid. I used to tell a lot of them, when we would sort of have our soccer meetings and tell the parents, well, this is kind of the roadmap for your kid. Unless your kid comes home from school every day and first thing takes that soccer ball and goes out and is banging it against the garage, working on his right foot, then working on his left foot, and then coming up and you hear as they're doing homework upstairs, the pounding because they're kicking the ball under the desk. Unless that kid is dribbling the ball up and down the hallway and then watching soccer in his every spare moment. All the times if you're saying, you want to go outside and practice your juggling for a few minutes, all the times if you're saying that or forcing that, even worse, is meaningless.
Yeah.
It's not, nothing's going to happen. It has to come from the kid.
Yeah.
There was a kid I knew who kind of languished on a 10-year-old soccer all-star team. The team wasn't that great. The kid wasn't that great. And then at 16, the kid turned into a giant. Suddenly he was 6'5" and chiseled and cut. And he said, I think maybe I can play this game. And then he put in the work. He put in the hours. He put in all the practice himself. And, beyond training and beyond coaches and off season, he did it all.
Yeah.
And, then he got himself he wasn't chosen to play in college. He didn't have any sort of scholarship. He forced himself onto the team.
Wow.
And now he's playing in a semi-pro league at 25 years old. But it all came from him. And it came from the growth spurt. It came from puberty that helped him.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, there are just a couple ways of kids becoming professional athletes. One of them is sort of to the manner born. If your parents were both professional or super athletes, you've got a DNA leg up. It might happen for you. Or if at 14 or 15, when you're growing into your adult body, you suddenly feel this power and this drive, then you have a shot. But coming from the parent of an 8-year-old who was so excited to get his kid on an elite team, and wow, my kid is now ahead, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's so true. And yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I was telling you earlier that one of my first experiences was hockey one when your kids are 5 years old, and there comes spring and then summer hockey after the regular season, which starts in September and goes to March. And one mom saying, well, you can sure see a difference between the kids that play spring and summer hockey than the kids that don't, as if that gave them some kind of advantage for the future, right? And and at the same time, I have seen those kids that really care about their hockey. I have a neighbor, and this boy, my son, played hockey with him, and he was the kid that was doing pirouettes on the ice. Like, he couldn't have cared less about the game. And then he changed. Puberty changed him. Yeah. Right.
So
I see him
he
outside.
Lit up.
I see him outside my window with his rollerblades on and a parachute so that he can build his strength. Like, this kid really is into it. Right. And whether or not he'll make it to the show, who knows, right?
He'll learn a lot of other things. He'll learn about himself. He'll learn about his work ethic and draw all of that, which is fabulous. But again, the possibility, the people that make it to professional status, they're freaks of nature.
Yeah, right.
We don't realize it because we see so many of them come across our TV screens, and we just think, wow, this guy plays for this school, this guy plays for this team, my kid can do that. But these guys are the outliers.
Yeah.
They're the 1 in a million. I had at my summer camp, I had a little girl who was 6 or 7 years old. Her mom worked at the school that we do camp. And so she became part of the camp. And she would just have a basketball in her hand all the times, at all times. She was just dribbling. And she was lights out at 7 years old, better than any kid, better than any of the counselors. And I said to her mom, I'd love to have tickets someday. And she's going, no, she just loves it. She's just playing. Well, fast forward that, she played for her high school, which then won state championships. She went to UCLA. And now she is a professional in the WNBA with the Seattle Storm. And she's just, it all came from her and her love. It came from just her heart and her determination. And none of it, the parents just laid back and just sort of, would nurture it, maybe guide a little here and there, kind of, but it was no pushing, no energy from the parents. It all came from the kid. But you could see this kid at 6, 7, 8 years old that there was something different. This was a different kid. And professional athletes are different beasts.
I kind of like that you're saying they're freaks of nature, because I think you're absolutely right. So, okay, so here's the thing. So to be clear, you can't buy your way into professional sports, right? I saw an article one time that said if you too have over $100,000, probably $1 million now, you too can have a child in the NHL or the NBA or whatever. And I don't think that's true. And then also, so there's that piece. You can't buy your way in, and you can't bully and push and run your own agenda for your kids. Because what will happen is if they don't have the talent, that is setting them up for a lot of hurt. And also if they get sick of you when they become teenagers, and they can decide what they're going to do and not do, and they will reject you and the sport. So you've lost twice.
Look, the way I like to put it is we have a 10-year window of experiencing sports with our kids. And it's really a privilege for us to be part of their journey. We have to subordinate our own ego and realize that, no, they're the ones. We had our time. This is their time. And we can make that 10-year window a time of family bonding and fun and joy, or we could turn it into a living hell.
Yeah.
And, a lot of parents figure, well, they're pushing and the kids need pushing and they need coaches that yell at them. And this is good for them and that builds character. And so, they don't understand that the kids are pulling back and the kids, well, do I have to go to practice tonight? And, all those kind of signs that are saying, this is a little too much for me. Parents ignore that, figuring that, the harder they push, the better it is for the kid. Well, it's just making life miserable at home. And it's a whole family thing. It's not just say dad and the kid or mom and the kid. It's just, it permeates the entire family. So, misery expands exponentially within a family when things are going poorly with sports and the way your, parents are kind of treating the experience.
Well, something just came to mind too, because most of our coaches, for the most part, are parents of a child on the team or a parent of a child on the team, right? And so I have seen, you just said, well, it's good that they have a coach that yells at them. Well, I don't know about that. I've seen coaches throw diapers at kids who are 10 and 11 years old. I have, I've heard of atrocious things. One coach that friends of mine had refused to talk to the parents. He absolutely would never speak to the parents. He wasn't a parent of a kid, by the way, and only would let his one assistant coach talk to the parents. It was ridiculous.
Well, but I'm sure that coach also said, I'll only speak to the player.
Maybe.
Which is one of the signals of a toxic coach, trying to cut out the parents or isolate the kids from the parents. But yeah, that's craziness.
Yeah. What is toxic coach? Tell me about that. I think we got to touch on that a little bit.
We like to think that our kids' coaches are there to develop our kids, are there for the benefit of our kids. And, there is a distinction between recreational volunteer coaches and travel, club paid professional coaches, where professional basically just means they're being paid.
Doesn't mean that they're non-biased, by the way.
It doesn't mean they're non-biased, doesn't mean they're good, doesn't mean they know what they're doing, but they've finagled their way in and now they're coaching. So we like to think that coaches are there for our kids. And I'd say the majority of coaches are. Even the ones that aren't good, generally they're trying not to do any harm. But there are coaches that have their own agenda or are there to further their own careers. And the kids are just fungible pieces. And if one kid doesn't work out, boom, you're gone. We've got another guy coming in your place. But then there are some that even do more harm, that do psychological harm. Look, we know the physical ones. We've seen all those horror stories and watched all those terrible trials. And guys are not enough guys are sitting in jail right now because they have crossed the lines. But there are people that are more insidious. The example of I won't talk to the parents, I'll only talk to the player. Well, that's, they'll pump up the player and try to separate them from the parents. I've seen coaches like that. I've seen coaches that just yell at the kids. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't really have a coaching point, but they're screaming at the kids kind of to hear themselves speak, to build up their own ego. One of my daughter's coaches, when a player would sort of make a mistake on the field, would turn and scream at the bench. I mean, there are coaches that just rob joy from kids. One of my daughter's friends just heard that she had gotten into a great school. And so she was smiling at practice and the coach yelled at her for smiling.
Oh,
these are people that should not be coaching. They shouldn't be dealing with kids.
Yeah.
And parents need to have their antenna up. They need to be, proactive. They need to be attentive. Just because their kid is going off to play in a game or play it on a team doesn't mean it's a safe and healthy environment. So parents have to be a little proactive in figuring out what's right for their kids.
Well, and the reality too of a coach, and look, I like, thank you to all those coaches. Thank you to all those dads, those moms that are doing all of this, right? Because it's hard work. It takes a lot. And you have to recognize that you need a certain set of skills because you're going to get all kinds of kids. You're going to get kids with mental health issues. You're going to get kids with ADHD. You're going to get kids that, lack impulse control, don't really listen very well, all that kind of stuff too. And so I have a kid like that, right? My oldest is like that. And I remember, oh my gosh, much to my horror, my husband and my horror, last game of the season, playoff game, this one coach that he had, and everybody said, well, he's a summer ball coach. So of course he's going to be harsh, meaning, yeah, right. I know you're making the woo face. Like, and I'm like, so what? Like, and summer ball here means that's the rep, that's the AAA or whatever. That's the higher level. If you get picked to play summer ball, you're really good. So this guy was a summer ball coach. He was a jerk. And he didn't want to play my kid. My son was struggling. No empathy, no compassion, no curiosity about him. And we're saying, like, look, we're trying to figure it out. We know that he's hard, but we're working with our doctors and psychologists. Like, we're not sure what's going on, blah, 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 blah. He wasn't being
Coach didn't care.
He was at the bottom of the batting order every time. And much to our horror, so the last game, Parker, the dugout was right where the stands were. He gets his bag, packs his stuff up, leaves in the middle of the game, walks in front of all of the stands and said, these coaches are trash. And then,
God bless him. That's great.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Parker. Come on. All right. So maybe it was a little inappropriate, but what tools does he have to express the abuse he's suffered throughout the summer? He's got a limited toolbox there. So you know what? Look, if we're going to tell horror stories, my son Evan, who sounds a little Parkerish, was very talented, but impulsive.
Yeah.
And ended his club soccer career with a 17-year-old team. The last game, he's dribbling down the field. He's moments from unleashing what's going to be the winning goal. And he's got his leg cocked, and all of a sudden the whistle blows. Game over.
Oh.
And both coaches were looking at their watches because it was early. It was about 5 minutes left in the game, and the refs just blew the whistle. And so the whole field is silent, and all of a sudden, ringing across the field, I hear, "F you, ref! You effing ref! What is that?" And everybody's kind of looking around, and I turn, and to my horror, I see that it's Evan, who's unleashing this tirade of F-bombs, and it continues. And he's screaming at the refs, and he takes off his uniform, and he throws his jersey, and he's screaming at the refs. And I start screaming at him.
Yeah.
Shut up! What do you just get off the field? And it just, so that was a bit of a horror show. Yeah. But again, these kids are so focused. They want this. They want to succeed in the moment, not necessarily in the future. The future's opaque. We don't know what's going to be there. But in the moment, they're invested. And so Parker walking off that way, dude, I get it. I think, pat him on the back for me.
I'll tell him.
Yeah. What else could he have done? Yeah, he could have slunk off without saying anything. And, maybe that would have been a little better. But God bless him.
Yeah, it was a tough
he had his moment. His moment.
Yeah. And it was a tough situation to parent through too, because what do you do? Right. We were like, well, you're going to sit here and watch. We came to watch this game. You're going to sit here and watch. Right. We didn't know what else to do, to be honest. And
it's not in the parent handbook.
No, it was not in the parent handbook. And by the way, that does bring up something, when you talk about yelling at the refs are kids too. Let's not forget the refs are kids too, for the most part, right? And we are really hurting those kids the way grown adults talk to these kids too. So we've got to also keep in check what we say.
Well, down here, most of the refs are older adults.
Oh, are
but
they?
we do have youth referees.
Yeah.
And in our AYSO, which is the recreational youth soccer organization, there is a policy of you cannot speak to youth referees. I mean, it's bad enough to criticize the adults. It's horrible. You should not do that. First of all, whatever you're going to scream, it's not going to change the call. It's not
Yeah.
going to change anything, except maybe turn the referee more against you. But, you know, screaming or talking to the kid referees who are there out of the goodness of their heart and probably know more about the game than you do because they've been playing it their whole lives.
Right.
It's forbidden. There's no tolerance.
No.
So lay off the referees, lay off the officials. You know, a lot of them in the rec leagues, they're all volunteers. It's when you get into the club and travel teams that you're now paying for officials. But just it doesn't do anything. It doesn't make you feel any better.
No, and no amount of money is worth abuse. Abuse by adults for a child, you know, and so you know, and most people are good, but I've seen grown men, again in hockey, grown men intimidate these young kids who are refs, who are, you know, a few years older than the kids on the ice, but
they know the game.
They've been playing the game. I have seen calls changed, you know, so it does, you know, it can happen. So, okay. So here's the thing. So we have, you know, this is what I've always said, you know, looking at this, you know, I feel like, you know, we had a pretty good grasp of this, although we got caught up in stuff too. But, you know, I would always say sort of under my breath, in my head, sometimes out loud, you know, like, that's great, your kid is doing all that stuff, but I'll see you in, you know, 10, 20 years when your kid and my kid are playing in the same beer league together, you know, for fun, right? No one's paying them to play. They have to pay to play. So,
well, you hope that. You hope that they're going to be playing in 10 or 20 years. That's the good news.
Yeah.
A lot of these people won't be playing at all.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things you want to at least your kids to get out of youth sports is the desire to keep playing as adults in adult leagues, at college intramurally, after college, you know, recreationally. You want that. You know, that's a success story if your kid is still playing in 20, 25 years.
Yeah. So what we really want to talk about is the good stuff, right? Like sport, first and foremost, it's supposed to be fun, right? They make relationships, they learn life skills. And by the way, I love, as a parent, all the people that we've gotten to meet, and all of our friendships now are really from people that we've sat, you know, in a cold rink together with for a long, long time. So, you know, let's talk about why sport is so good for our kids.
Well, I mean, you know, there's the obvious, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know,
and it needs
kids love to have fun, you know, playing with a ball or playing with a puck or playing with a stick or a tennis racket. It's just fun. It's freeing. It's liberating. You know, just moving, getting going, getting blood flowing, being with others, laughing. Arguing, figuring out how to resolve the argument.
Yes.
You know, it's a life experience, and it's fun. You know, there are all the social and psychological and emotional aspects that make it so important for kids to develop in healthy ways. This is how they figure things out, through sports. You know, sports is the metaphor for life. The cliche maybe, but the metaphor for life. And the things that you may encounter later in business, you've already worked out on your all-star team as a 12-year-old. You know, and you might even know that person from your all-star team as a 12-year-old, even better, because the relationships, these might be the people that you're going to college with. You're going to their weddings. You know, you're going to be going to their kids' events. You know, so there's all that positive stuff that sports can bring to our kids and us. As you said, your best friends were the ones you sat in the rink with. Literally. I coached all my kids, all three of my kids, all-star teams, and so developed 3 sets of new best friends. You know, and still to this day, years after my kids have aged out of youth sports, there's still the people that I have the most in common with. The best time being with, and you know, it's difficult making new relationships as an adult, as a married adult, as a parent.
It's true.
Come from your kids' schools, or your sports teams. And sports is such an emotional experience. It's such a it's euphoric, and so you're joined in that moment with these other parents, and that's bonding.
Oh,
And you'll always have that.
yeah, and there is something so exciting, that last game of a tournament, and your kids
Yeah.
win, and I mean, like it's so exciting. Okay, we're gonna wrap up in a second, but I want to just cover what the grade 8 is.
All
Please
right.
tell me what the grade 8 is. This is from you.
So the grade 8, I deal with a lot of younger parents who are just coming in
Yeah.
to sports, and there's people just figure I sign up my kid, I send them off, I pay my fee, and well, I'm in. Well, it's a little
Yeah.
more complicated than that, which they soon find out once they are in it. So I came up with, I don't know, sort of a checklist of qualities, adjectives and nouns. I tried to make them all adjectives or all nouns. The writer in me wanted to make it neat, but the parent in me realized it's probably going to be a little messy. So sort of 8 kind of qualities that I think are helpful for a parent to have to be a good sports parent. So it's the great 8 qualities. The first one I think I've mentioned is being proactive. When you get in, you need to do your research, research the programs, do your due diligence on where you're going to be sending your kids. Check out the programs, the coaches, the financials. What is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
You want to kind of know up front how much money you're going to be shelling out, because it will be a lot of money if you keep going through it. So know what you're signing up for. That's number 1, is kind of proactive. Number 2 is be patient, because kids are going to have bad games. They're going to be on bad teams. They're going to have bad coaches. In rec leagues, all of the bad coach stuff is temporary, because in 3 months, the season's over. If you're in a club or travel or elite program, well, you might have to, navigate that a little more carefully. But be patient. If your team is not winning, maybe the kids have to develop first. They have to learn how to win. They're not going to just win. So take a deep breath. You're not going to get instant results. Number 3 is be supportive. Be an advocate for your kid, while also being mindful that this is his or her journey, not yours. So just be supportive through all that. Then you need to have some restraint or self-control. You need to check your impulses to correct or criticize or engage in conversations after a game, like we speaking about the car ride. Just take a deep breath, hold yourself back. Don't do it. Don't launch into it. Your kid will thank you. You'll be feeling much better later, because a lot of these emotions just pass. You breathe. By the next day, you're kind of, well, what was I? Yeah, he missed the shot. Big deal. So have restraint, have self-control. The next one is to be respectful. You need to have respect for the game, which means respecting the coaches, the officials, the effort that your kid and every other kid out there is putting in. It also means getting your kids to practices and games at the appointed time, picking them up at the appointed time.
Absolutely.
So, having respect is really an important quality. Number 6 is to be clear-eyed, to be discerning, skeptical, because you need to have a well-calibrated BS meter, because you're going to be fed a lot of lines. You're going to be made a lot of promises. You're going to be told a lot of things about how great your kid is and what this program will be able to do for your kid. Have a healthy skepticism about that. The next one, number 7, which is the most difficult, and you probably only achieve with time, is perspective.
Yeah.
So in the short term, try and set achievable goals and expectations for your kid. Let's watch them develop. Rome was not built in a day. A kid's not going to become a superstar in one season. Your hope is that your kid will be better 6 months after he starts playing, 6 months after that, be a little better. You got to give it time. Also, this is youth sports. It's not professional sports. That's where you're at. These are little kids running around, bouncing into each other, falling down, laughing, crying, the whole gamut. Just be able to understand that, and that this is not their life. This is just a chapter in their life and your life. So as I said a minute ago, the future is opaque. You cannot predict at 8 what the kid's going to be like at 16 or 18 or 25. So, take a breath, try and have perspective. And the last one, which I think is kind of the most important, I might have just said that about perspective, which is really important, but in the moment, the most important is having a sense of humor about it all.
Oh, good one. Yes.
This is fun. This is fun. This is funny. This is silly. Kids banging around, kids falling down, getting up, scoring goals, missing goals, picking flowers, getting mowed over. I mean, just know that this is a fun ride. Enjoy it. So have a sense of humor. And I think those really, being proactive, patient, supportive, having restraint, being respectful, clear-eyed, having perspective and a sense of humor, those will go a long way to helping parents have an excellent experience with their kids. So those are the grade 8.
That is awesome. And I think that should be like the code of conduct for every field, arena, everything. Look, parents, this is here's the grade 8. Don't forget about these and keep reminding yourself. And I think you're absolutely right. Sense of humor is so
gotta have it.
And I mean, I remember seeing those kids at tryout and Hockey 1 doing snow angels on the ice.
Yeah. Yeah, my 23-year-old baby's first soccer practice when he was 5 years old, he thought it was smart to get down into a fetal position. And then a couple of other kids followed him. And, all of a sudden you've got kids kicking balls at the kids in the fetal position.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
You have to laugh.
Oh my gosh, I have so many stories. I feel like I want to tell you them all, but I will leave it because
another time.
There's so much fun to be had. There are so many great connections to be had. Yeah. So, focus on the fun and broadening your kids' horizons.
And the rest will take care of itself.
Yes. If they're meant to be, it will happen for them. If it's meant to be, it will happen. Right. And if they, like you said, if they are the ones that are driving the bus on their passion for it, then you go with it. If you are doing the convincing and every time there's a practice, you've got to drag them, you've got to drag them to a game. Okay. There's your signal. Yeah. There's your sign to say, okay, you know what? This isn't right. And by the way, you
have to listen. You need to listen to your kids.
Can we have the grade 8+1?
Yeah. That's in all of them. That that covers above the grade 8. That's up there. You gotta listen. You gotta listen. Less talk, more listen.
Yeah. And I think that comes with respect. I think it's respect your kids and what they're saying, so with all of that, yes, listen to your kids, let your kids, drive their ambition, give them opportunities where you can, and just don't forget about fun. Just don't forget about fun and understand that it's not the end all be all, right? It's just not the end all be all, right? Yeah. There's so much more to life than just this, and enjoy it while you can, because somebody like me, I didn't, my son had an accident on a trampoline and he obliterated his leg, and it's over for him, and that's sad, you
look back,
so you just never know.
You look back and go, ooh, did I ruin that moment? Or was I a little harsh there? Or could I have been a little, gentler, a little more vulnerable here? And, you second guess yourself, which you can't do anyway. But when it's over, it's over. When it's over, it's over. And, it's really, if you have the memories and you have the friends who will keep churning up the memories. Yeah. That's what you have. And hopefully you have a kid who had a great time and loved it. And maybe Parker will come back and, play a different sport down the road when, things change. He's 16. He's got a lot of years.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's what you just hope. And that it's been a great experience, a peak experience, and that you and your kids have enjoyed it together.
Yeah, totally. Well, this is so helpful. And for anybody who's just entering into the sports arena with their kids, just please keep this in mind. If you're already in it, and you're really passionate and you're feeling big feelings every time there's a game or a practice, check in with yourself. What is going on with you? I think that we need some self-reflection. Maybe you need to, talk it out with somebody too, and just say, you know what, I realize that this is coming from a place of my own stuff. Like I didn't realize how much I wanted my kid to succeed because I wasn't given the chance or whatever it is. Right. So we need to be self-reflective for sure. So this has just been a wonderful conversation, Coach Steve. Where can people find you? I love your website. What's your website?
Well, the book that I wrote was called What Size Balls Do I Need? Which is really a reflection of the questions that coaches ask as they move up through the ranks, because equipment is different sized.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So we have a website, www.whatsizeballs.com. You could find me on Instagram as Coach Steve LA. I have a TikTok with my evil alter ego, Dick Punch, who dispenses all sorts of horrible sports advice.
Oh, I love it.
So real Dick Punch on TikTok.
Yeah.
And anybody that wants to get in touch, there's you can give them emails and
we've got it all in the show notes already. So you'll find all of Coach Steve's information. And one last thought is, for everybody listening, share some of Coach Steve's videos and stuff with your association, with the parents on the team as well, because it is important that we all get on the same page, right? And we sort of, take the pressure off ourselves too. It's okay to just enjoy the game. It's okay.
Got to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Got to enjoy the game.
It
is a game. A game is meant to be played, and play is fun. So, it all comes back around.
It totally does. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I know the listeners will love this. I just think it's invaluable. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Robbin. This was fun.
Thank you for listening to this edition of my podcast, Parenting Our Future. I'm parent coach Robbin McManne. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might also need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you like my work, I would be grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating. For those of you who like my content and want more, visit me at yellingcurebook.com to get your copy of my book and to find other resources to help you. Until next time, I am wishing you and your family peace and connection.